and welcome back to Ashley Main Makes, and happy Valentine's Day! So today I'm sharing my Valentine's Day project with you guys. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't something I normally do. I don't normally make a project just for Valentine's Day. But, you know, in the spirit of what I talked about in my last video, for one of my goals for 2025 is that when I get a bee in my bonnet and I want to make something, I'm just going to go ahead and make it. So, but yeah, even though it is extremely seasonally inappropriate, as it is an extremely snowy, blustery day here in February as I'm recording. So, you know, we'll see how we do. But yeah, so, and it isn't actually entirely 100% Valentine's Day. I can see myself wearing this skirt kind of on, you know, as on the weekends into the spring. This print is actually a Alice in Wonderland themed print from Riley Blake Designs. I bought it probably over a year now at Beehive Craft Studio in Austin. It's one of the last pieces I think I have from them. And I bought it on sale when I got it, so this print is quite a few years old now. I think it says 2022 or 2023 on the salvage, but anyway, very, very cute. But yeah, so Alice in Wonderland themed. It's basically in this peach colorway with these kind of red-orange hearts on it. I had this other chunk of, what is it, rayon knit? Mystery rayon knit from Fabric Mart in a similar orangey red. So I thought it would be really fun to put the two together. I imagine that I will wear them separately quite a bit outside of Valentine's Day, but I thought it was kind of a cute color combination having the red and pink. So I thought I would whip them up to be able to wear them. And I've been wanting to make them for a while. The other thing too that I wanted to mention about this skirt is this skirt is dead easy. If you are a beginner and you want to make yourself a cute little retro piece pretty quickly, or you've got some fun quilting cotton, this is a fantastic project for that. It gets rid of both. I'm not using a pattern today, and you only need basically your waist measurement to start off with, and even that can be a little me because I'm putting some elastic in the back. So this is a super easy, great beginner project, and it works out great because it uses quilting cotton, obviously, which is super readily available, and it's in a bunch of fun prints. Like, I've done this previously for making kind of like IP type skirts. Like, I've made myself a Star Trek skirt, things like that. So you could definitely use it to wear to like a Comic-Con or something like that, using some of those fun IP quilting cottons in this way. So yeah, dead easy. It does, well, it's a no pattern for the skirt, but I am using my square pocket pattern as well in this project, so you guys can see how that works and how I'm using that. So that'll be really great. So, because I did have some questions on this square pocket, so we'll go ahead and do that. The top is a little smidgen more complex because of the fabric I had. Originally, I was just going to make a Rita blouse to go with, which is dead simple. And again, like, I would call that a super easy beginner retro outfit. This skirt and a Rita blouse, and you could call it a day, and I'd say a beginner could do that really, really easily. Because this knit is a little bit finer than I thought it was, I didn't think it was going to hold those sort of waist panels of the Rita very well. So what I opted to do was actually just to extend the top of the Rita to be more of a like typical peasant blouse that's loose. So, and there's plenty of options for that. And any pleasant blouse is going to be a super easy project. So that's kind of what I did. So that's the only kind of like complicated patterning I did in this video. But of course, I'm going to, in the majority, be looking at the skirt itself because I think this is a really easy project. I think it looks really fabulous when it's done. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoy this. I think it's really cute. I'm really happy with the way it turned out, and it's a lot of fun, even though it's February. And so I hope you guys have a wonderful Valentine's Day, and let's get into the video. All right, so I'm extremely devastated because I've either lost the footage or I just straight up never recorded the footage of me ripping out these panels. And honestly, that's entirely possible because Maple was driving me crazy this day. But as you might have just saw, that was exactly how I ripped the panels for the actual skirt itself. The way you do this is you just go down to the length of panel you want, you put a snip through the salvage with your scissors, and then you just rip the fabric straight across. And what this does is it gives you a perfectly on grain square piece of fabric, which is extremely important so that your skirt doesn't hang crooked. In this case, I did 4 30-inch panels, and then I have a little bit left over for a total of 4 yards. So I should have had 24 inches total, but I ripped a little bit off to start with just to make it straight. And then you saw me just rip a little bit just now so that I could go ahead and straighten up this panel as well before I am going to go ahead and cut my pockets. And this isn't just any ordinary pocket pattern. This is an Ashley Main Makes perfect pocket pattern. So this is one of the other variations that's available in the pack. This is specifically for square paneled skirts, so exactly like this one, either gathered or pleated. And there's a couple advantages to this. One, it does save a little bit of fabric while still being a big enough pocket to put your cell phone in comfortably. But also, having it be a straight pocket, I think helps it blend in a little bit better with the pleats or gathers in your skirt. So I really, really love this. I think it's really easy to do, and it also helps you if you want to do like French seams or anything like that. But after all that, I'm just marking my notches here, and we're going to move on to the next. Hello, Ratchet Evening Ashley here on an extremely cold Canadian winter evening. And I'm here to talk to you about a dilemma that I'm having with my very seasonally inappropriate skirt. So normally when I make these skirts, I just rip them salvage to salvage as like the panels of the skirt, like you saw. And one of the great things about doing it this way is I'm using the maximum amount of the fabric I have, and I just kind of let it be as full as it's going to be. But also the usual advantage of that is that I don't have to finish any of my seams because I'm using the salvage edge. Well, you usually have to finish like your pockets, but that's about it. So all my seams are already finished. In this case, because this pattern has this fabric, has this stripe in it, along with being a directional print, I'm not able to do that. And I didn't realize until now, but this repeat of this particular fabric isn't quite centered the same on both sides. So this is a me problem. Normally you probably wouldn't have to worry about this with your skirt, but this salvage obviously has the, you know, Riley Blake Designs giant white border thing. It's got a tiny strip of the peach here, and then it's got my printed stripe. The other side, I've got it just folded back here so you can see, basically stops right at the edge of the print before the stripe. So that would mean if I sewed these panels just straight together, I would have an off-center seam with a weird width stripe distance right down the center of my skirt. Obviously, that's like, I'm not mad at this print. This is for quilting. Normally you wouldn't be doing this with this, so it's kind of one of the foibles of quilting cotton, but I don't want that. So I want it to be intentional, whatever is in the front center of my skirt, because this is such a simple skirt that I'm making. You know, the details really matter. So I was trying to think of what I wanted to do. Obviously, I'm not going to sew it straight together. There's a couple things I could do. I could sew this edge like this edge along the pattern part, but that would cut off this pattern a little bit. It might cut off some of the mushrooms and stuff for my seam allowance. So that didn't seem, that's not the plan. The other thought I could do is sew it along this salvage edge here where this little pink is, and then you'd basically have a double stripe in the center. I don't mind that idea. I don't know. I still am torn. I'm kind of either leaning towards that or the other, because then you'd have a very intentional like double stripe down the middle. That's the safer way to go, honestly, because you probably won't notice like if you're off a little bit then. Yeah, I mean, the one good thing is because this is high quality quilting cotton, the stripe in the pattern is pretty close to going right along the grain line. It's not crooked at all. So that's something to make sure too when you've got a printed stripe versus like a woven into the pattern stripe, like an actual plaid. Those are a little bit easier to match up just because the stripe is part of the fabric. So it's actually the weave of the fabric. So if you get that lined up, your skirt is straight. With prints, may or may not be. I have faith in this one. It looks pretty good. I have like checked it over, so I think we're okay. So I could do a double stripe down the middle. The other option is to try and line the next closest white stripe up with the other white stripe and sew straight down the middle. That's probably like my highest level of difficulty thing, but it would keep it even and probably hide the seam a little bit. It's like, do you want an intentional seam look or do I want to hide the seam look? So that's kind of what I'm debating on. I don't mind doing it this way. Like this stripe is a little bit wibbly anyway, like in the actual design, because it's meant to look like it's painted on. Oh, hello, Maple. Maple cameo. She's being very sweet tonight. Also, it's very cold, so that's probably why. Yeah, so it shouldn't be too bad. Even if I'm a little bit wibbly, it should be fine. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. So it's just one of those things to think about. So I am going to lose a little bit of my width here, but I mean, I'm going to be totally fine. This is basically, it's like almost like double my full waist measurement. So we're still going to get like a good amount of gathers. I'm not worried about it. So it's fine, but I will have to do it as well on my side seams again, so that this front seam that I'm putting in is still not crooked. I might cut it to this one here, this closer one, just to keep me from losing more fabric. And I feel like having a stripe down the side seam is going to be a little bit more difficult just because I am putting in pockets and stuff. I don't want to think that hard. So I think I might just cut it to this edge on the other side. So yeah, so I think that'll be fine. I think that's what we're going to do, but I just kind of wanted to talk it through with you guys. It's just important to look at your fabric before you go ahead and do these things. So, but yeah, so that's, you know, talking this out, I think that's what I'm going to do. So we're going to go from there. I'm going to try and match this up as best as I can. I'm going to take my pins and pin all the way along this stripe. I am going to sew it before I cut any of this extra off, because if I hate it, then I can undo it and do the double stripe. So whichever one you see is how successful I was. Yeah. So let's get into sewing. So we're starting off with sewing those front two panels together along that stripe. I did decide to go that direction, and so I just pinned it right along the stripe, as you might be able to see here, and I actually think it turned out pretty well. It's not perfect because this stripe is a little painterly looking, so it's not a perfect line to follow, but I think it turned out good enough. And so here I am just ripping the extra off the salvage there so that everything matches up right to left. So the stripe ends up in the middle. And then here I am just sewing on the pocket bag. And then of course I'm going to do the one on the other side. I did miss the footage of actually sewing the two together. Honestly, I don't know what's happening today. I am missing a bunch of footage, so I hope you'll forgive me. And there are, of course, instructions included with the pocket pattern. And I'm doing a little understitching here, of course, critical to having the perfect pocket. So here I am just sorting out my waistband. And so again, I'm trying to have one stripe be directly down the middle. And this is the only critical measurement in this entire thing. I'm just trying to cut one waistband piece that is basically half of my waistband plus 1 inch, which will be a 1/2 inch seam allowance on either side. And so again, just trying to match up that white stripe, and then I'm just marking it. I feel like this was causing me more trouble than it should have on this day to actually be able to figure out where that needed to be. But I'm going to go ahead and cut that and then keep track of that. That's your critical front waistband. The other one, I just left the full width of the panel, which I think worked out great because it basically doubled down to be that waistband. So helpful. So after my little maple break and moving her far, far away from the iron, I'm just going ahead and interfacing my front waistband. If you're doing the elastic in the back like I am here, you don't need to worry about interfacing the back at all. And then I'm just going ahead and using my pressing tool to pre-press my hems into place. I'm doing a nice deep 2-inch hem here. Very vintage, adds some nice weight to the skirt, and this will give me a 27-inch skirt length total, which is my preferred skirt length. And then I'm going in and adding those gathering stitches to the panel to be able to gather it into my waistband. Meatball, what you doing back there? So I'm just going ahead here and using a little bit of bias binding to finish off the one edge of my waistband. Now, normally I would probably just use a salvage edge or finish it off with my serger or some other way. You could, of course, fold it in as well and just whip stitch it in like you're supposed to, but I find this is a lot easier, and again, in talking about it in my last video, the waistbands are one of the first things to go, so being able to quickly remove it and add it back on is really helpful, and this is one of the ways I can do that. Now I'm just attaching the waistband to the skirt. I did spend a long time gathering the skirt perfectly off camera. That's a hugely important step, just to make sure that my final result of my skirt is going to be really nice, so do not skip. And then I'm actually hemming my skirt now, finally. I know it seemed a little backwards how I did this, but this prevents me from having to iron the skirt in the round. And I'm doing another little bit of cheating here. So now that my skirt's assembled and I've folded my waistband back, I'm using a stitch in the ditch foot here to go in that crease between my waistband and my skirt. And so I'm just sewing along there to complete the back of my waistband. And I'm leaving a little gap here for adding that elastic in. And I'm jumping ahead to just stitching across one side of the elastic. You'll put the elastic in and then make sure it fits you really well and is comfortable. And then you're going to use that same foot to stitch up the other side. So I'm not showing much of the top today. I've made the Rita dress a couple of times on this channel. Obviously I'm making a Rita top today, but it's pretty modified, and the only thing I'm doing different is making it out of a knit. So I thought I'd just show you a couple of my tips to do something like this out of a knit. I'm using a little bit of starch here just to be able to iron all those channels in place, because there is a lot of them on this shirt. And then I'm using a zigzag to do up my side seams just in case they're on any stress, and I'm doing the same zigzag on my hem. But I'm actually finishing the channels with a straight stitch just so that they're nice and smooth, and a straight stitch across the elastic, as well as finishing the channels off. And of course, now here we are at the reveal, and I think this outfit turned out really, really cute. I do love that it does look very vintage while being super comfortable with the elastic in the back and the knit top. Actually, the knit rayon of this top ended up having some really nice drape, so I really like the look of it. I think it was a good call to stay away from doing those panels. And of course the skirt is fabulous. This is of course my favorite way to make a paneled skirt like this. I think it just gives you full vibes here. I've got a petticoat under this today. I am really sorry about this reveal footage. It is like -25 here, and so I wasn't about to go outside, unfortunately, to take this reveal because I think I might have hypothermia. So yeah, unfortunately you just get me in my living with a tripod. So I'm really sorry about that, and I'm sorry about the missing footage today. If you'd like to see another skirt like this in a little bit more detail about the drafting, you can go ahead and have a look at my DIY pleated skirt video. I go into a bit more detail on how to do the measurements and that sort of thing. But other than that, I hope you guys had a wonderful Valentine's Day. I know I'm posting this a day late, so I hope you guys had a great time. And do let me know what you did. If you make a outfit for Valentine's Day, I'd love to hear all about it. And I will see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys!